guy who's on CNN doing all the political introductions and talking about commentary about the Obama race and McCain, was introducing everybody on stage, and everybody was getting their introduction done on paper. And then Roland had the privilege of introducing T.D. Jakes, Bishop T.D. Jakes. And instead of introducing T.D. Jakes, a video rolled. And he said, oh, well, Bishop couldn't get introduced like everybody else. He had to get a DVD. He had to have a DVD. But you know, I was in the audience going, I got to get me one of those. I got to get me one of those. Yeah. No more introducing me on paper. So how you guys doing? Is this good for you? It's been good? Everybody's been good? You know, I want to say just one more thing about Stephen Pierce that I'm glad I didn't say before I got started, before I introduced him. Sitting with Stephen Pierce, you always get multi-million-dollar ideas. In fact, every speaker that we have this weekend, every time you talk to them, you get a multi-million-dollar idea. If you watch them, you get a multi-million-dollar idea. I was talking to Stephen just a couple of months ago about something he was doing. It was just one tiny thing that he had implemented that actually made me $1,000 in 24 hours. How many of you would like to make $1,000 in 24 hours? So those of you who took action with Stephen, good for you. Your life is about to change. Your life is about to change. Is that exciting? All right. So let me ask you by a show of hands, how many of you want to become a multimillionaire? All right? Okay? How many of you by a show of hands are committed to becoming a multimillionaire? And if it is necessary for you to become a multimillionaire, I want you to stand up. If it is necessary. All right, have a seat. Go ahead and start my presentation. All right, so here's what I learned. Remember the story I told you earlier about the guy who told me essentially I was holding back, right? Here's what I learned very early in life and my career. If you're not willing to make a fool out of yourself for something, you'll never have an extraordinary life. If you're not willing to make a fool out of yourself for something, you will never have an extraordinary life. I started broadcasting when I was in college. I knew I was going to be an amazing on-air personality. But I was also afraid to be an extraordinary personality. And I remember auditioning for some television stuff, and I remember one of my first things I got to do was to interview Barbara Jordan. Anybody know who Barbara Jordan is? You know, if that's the first out of the gate, you got to interview Barbara Jordan? Wow. And Barbara Jordan, we used to call her BJ. She actually used to watch us play basketball at the University of Texas at Austin. Any Longhorns in the house? Hook 'em! Okay. So, I have to do that occasionally. So, I interviewed Barbara Jordan. And I remember I was so nervous, my first television interview. And I kept saying, BJ, I'm just really nervous. But I did the interview, and she said, and I quote, "You were magnificent." Y'all know how Barbara Jordan talks, right? "You were magnificent." And I was like, well, hey, BJ was like, I was magnificent. So that gave me the confidence to really pursue what I wanted. But here's the thing. How many of you have thought, man, I wish I could really do something, but then you think, but I probably can't do it. I probably can't get it. Anybody else ever felt that way, right? I probably can really do this, but nah, people like me don't do this. People like me don't do this, whether it's age or race or whatever it is. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is really how to build, no matter what industry you're in, how to take it to a multi-million-dollar business fast. How many of you have gotten stuff going so fast for you and it's going really well and it scared you? Has that ever happened to anybody? Right? I have that experience even to this day. Stuff is going just as I wanted, and I thought, oh, that's really too good. Anybody else ever felt that way? All right? So we're going to talk about how to build a multi-million-dollar business. The first thing I got to ask you, the reason I started this by saying, who wants to be a multi-millionaire? Everybody wants to be a multi-millionaire. Yes? Then you move to the level of who is committed to being a multi-millionaire. Because when you commit to it, you got to do something with it, right? I'm committed to working out. Commitment for you for working out may be 5 times a week. For me, it's 3 times a week. That's my commitment. I'm committed to doing it. But when something is a necessity, that means you cannot function, you will not live, it will not work for you unless you get it. Yes? Food, air, right? Cheetos for some of y'all, right? You gotta have it. It's crunchy, right? Flame flavored Cheetos. But the reality is, if wealth is not a necessity for you, you will never be wealthy. You will never be wealthy. If you just want it, you'll make a little money. But unless it's a necessity for you, you will never be wealthy. There was a time when I was in college, I was working for Procter & Gamble, the only job I've ever had. I made $32,000, I was 25 years old. I thought that was a lot of money. Anybody ever think $32,000 was a lot of money? That was a lot of money. Had a company car, had a six-figure package. Oh, it was great. And as long as I was okay with making $32,000, guess how much money I made? $32,000. My point is this, whatever you're making right now, whatever your financial reality is right now, is exactly what you want to make. And when it's no longer okay for you to make just $32,000 or $60,000 or $180,000, you will make more money. It became a necessity for me to make more money. Not because I had bills to pay, but because the $32,000 level started to feel like poverty for me. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Right? It started to feel like poverty for me. And so instead of saying, well, I'm only making $32,000, I started saying, how can I create some genius in my life that I can actually make more money? And the first thing I had to realize was that as great as Procter & Gamble was, I was never going to get rich working for Procter & Gamble. As great as I was at selling toothpaste, Scope, Tide, Pampers, I was never going to become a millionaire working for Procter & Gamble. I was never going to become a millionaire making Procter & Gamble a multi-billionaire company. $billion-dollar company. So the first thing you have to realize is that whatever you're doing, if you're working for somebody else, that trek up the multi-million-dollar mountain, good luck getting there. It's going to take a while for you to get there. So we're going to talk about building your multi-million-dollar business, all right? You guys good with that? Yeah. All right.